Thank you for coming to check out my second episode. I am Jason D'Angelo. The channel name is Blank Paper. I am working on a script for a TV series, and I want to go into some of the tools of the trade, which I hope you will appreciate the effort that I've put into this to extend to you if you're curious about doing this yourself. But before I start that, I'm going to go ahead and play my introduction song that I worked so diligently on. I actually just wrote the lyrics. AI did all the rest. So thank you, AI, for creating the music and the vocals. Here we go.
My world of unbound chaos, a force without end. There's not enough blank paper to capture and mend. I have no limits, no lines I won't cross. Hatching up worlds, some lives will get lost. Jack of all trades, master of none. A new show is starting, but hasn't begun. Think it, say it, draw it, paint it, draft it, write it, ink it, spray it, toss away it, design, outline, define, refine, confine, align, entwine, outshine, the screenplay mine. Every breath consumes air, each blink consumes time. There is no rest in dreams, no thought worth a dime. Today that will change, each new step I take. You'll be by my side, just prove you're not fake. Think it, say it, draw it, paint it, draft it, write it, ink it, spray it, toss away it, design, outline, define, refine, confine, align, entwine, outshine, the screenplay mine. We all have a dream, mine all have lives. With each passing day, the good ones will thrive. Help me, help them, help you, help us. Become the ones, become the trust. Support the base, support the race.
All right, there we go. That was my intro song. I hope you enjoyed that. So, tools of the trade. I am working on Unbound, and there are various programs that I use or have used, am using still to create this. And I wanted to kind of share that with you and touch on them, what they're used for and how I am using them, and some alternatives, because I don't use every single one of these, but I do recommend some of the ones that I'm showing here. All right, so for starters, I use Fade In for writing my scripts, and it's good for TVs, series, or for movies. You can sort of write a world Bible, you can kind of hack it, but it's not really designed to do that. There really isn't any good software to do that because everyone writes in different ways, and this is a standard format. You're going to have one of two options. You're either going to be using Fade In, which is a one-time fee, and you own the software for life and all the upgrades, or you're going to be using the more de facto standard, which would be Final Draft. Larger companies use this, not solely, but they use this as their primary because they've purchased the rights to it and they're familiar with it and they've been using it for so many years. It's become a de facto standard. And because everyone keeps telling you it's de facto standard, everyone keeps using it anyways. Self-fulfilling prophecy. The difference is with Final Draft, like this is Final Draft 13 is the one they're on now. So you're going to pay a hefty price just to buy the software. And then if they have an upgrade, you're going to have to buy the upgrade, which is cheaper than paying for the software all over again, but it still costs more, I believe, than Fade In, which is the one-time fee for life. Now, Fade In can export a Final Draft copy. But if you're going to be a professional and if you liked Fade In for its functions and its features, then use Fade In, export it to Final Draft, and then you would also get Final Draft to kind of check it. And you can get an older version of Final Draft or the lesser version of Final Draft and just stay locked in that one. It's really not going to matter. That's all I'm going to say on those. I like Fade In personally because that's what I bought and it was cheaper. That's for script writing. And I know you're thinking, well, your only tools you really need are paper and pencil. And yeah, that works. If you turn in a script written on paper, they aren't even going to look at you. It has to be formatted correctly. And those handle all the formatting for everything you're going to need to put in there. Do not fill it up with notes. There are some things you do not want to do, or they don't need to be done. Like they don't want images and scripts. They don't care for that. It's about scripts, reading words. That's it. You're writing on two aspects. You're either writing dialogue for an actor to speak, or you're writing something for the director to set up a scene. That's pretty much all you need to include on that. Don't fill it with notes and alternatives and things like that. That's going to just, it's going to harm you more than it's going to help you. All right. So for 3D, I use a program called Daz 3D, which has pre-rigged models that are pretty decent. Their hair is kind of derpy, but what I will say is if you render something out, which I can do fast with my rig, because I've got a really powerful rig for doing 3D rendering with iRay, which gives the photorealistic lighting, then it's great because you can render something out really quick, put it into an AI image to image generator and tell it to pretty much make it look realistic or in a better setting or whatever, and it'll fill out the hair. It won't look derpy. It'll put in the little unique facial irregularities that make a face look realistic instead of being perfectly symmetrical and even and making it honestly look even more fake than it actually is. Give you some of the correct facial structures on here because these, no, it's hard to put your finger on it, but they just don't look right, and it's noticeable. You can look at a DAZ model and you know it's a DAZ model. But for free, you can't go wrong. And they have tons of free extra models and clothing and stuff like that. Like you can transform them and make them thicker, thinner, taller, and the clothes just like morph along with them. So it's great. A couple little glitches here and there, but it's as good as you can get for free besides Blender. But I'm not going to go into that yet. Soon. So these are some of the results that you can get from Daz 3D with iRay. These all look like they're iRay renders. I don't see any of the older GL style renderings. And again, you can put these into a 3D, into an AI program and have it dress it up to add realism that isn't actually, that doesn't render in a photograph. Like this looks totally fake. That's it's cute, but that would not actually work like that. Again, here looks kind of fakeish, This is too clean cut, too perfect. The hair on top looks good. That hair is awesome. Mustache, beard, eyebrows look decent. Facial expression looks great. It still kind of feels waxy, especially on the ears. Great for the women because they have long hair, it hides their ears. You don't see that as much. But like I said, there's tons of morphs, so you can really shape all of these models to cater to your desires and change their skins and everything. It's a great program. And with my rig, it depends on iRay, and iRay likes CUDA cores. So my rig has 2 Titan Vs and 2 Titan XP Pros, Galactic Empire and Jedi whatever. These are full of CUDA cores. CUDA cores is what helps iRay calculate all the light transmissions and 3D light refractions and things like that to make a good, strong, realistic looking render engine or rendering image. Blender, the alternative, uses a different. You can use iRay as well, but you have to pay for iRay for this. Daz iRay comes free. With Blender, you get an alternative. You get a couple alternatives for rendering engines, and they are good. iRay is better, but you have to, like I said, you have to pay for that. And you can't, unfortunately, you can now. DAZ 3D has a pipeline that can talk directly to Blender. So you can make something in Blender, a scene, then you can pipe it over to DAZ and then render it in DAZ. There you go. That's how you get iRay for free. The textures don't always translate correctly because Blender has different texture manipulators that DAZ won't have. And so you might have to tweak things out. But regardless, the Blender is the best alternative for free to get besides DAZ. The other tool I use for my 3D stuff is SketchUp. I do not recommend this. This is a paid monthly plan for SketchUp. If you use SketchUp a lot and you're into architecture, which is what it's actually designed for, then I would say, yes, get it. And you can create fast mockups. It's great. I actually use two versions, SketchUp 2018 and SketchUp 2019. And that was back before they had the annual plan. So you could purchase it and you owned it. And that was it. You didn't get the upgrades, but you got that version. It worked forever offline. You didn't have to do anything online. You didn't have to be tied to this monthly plan. If you don't stop paying, your program stops working, and they pretty much hold everything for hostage. I don't like those plans. Photoshop, I believe, now does that too, and they had older versions. Like I said, you can still get the older versions. I'm not sure about the legalities of it, but the older versions still exist out there. Software licenses. Other people have them. So that's all I'm going to say on that. On my 3D aspect, I have a 3D printer. I love this printer. It's a Quidditech X-Max 3D3. It's a full enclosed chamber. It's a large printing area. It's 325 centimeters by 325 centimeters by 315, millimeters by millimeters, and 315 millimeters high. Because it's a sealed chamber and it's heated, it can print pretty much every printable filament type. Carbon fiber impregnated, glass impregnated. They can print the softer, clear rubbers and opaque rubbers that are like spongy and, like the sole of a shoe. You can print the hard plastics, everything. And I use this to print up various props and scaled scenes and things like that I might want to use for representation, so that when I actually do present to them, I will have physical, tangible things they can hold in their hands and say, look, I'm considering these kind of things for marketing, necklaces and rings and whatever. And I can print those all out. I can show what the ship's going to look like, what the scale is to people on the planet, what weapons might look like in the show. And it's great. Totally overkill. But if you're into that, I say go for it. Okay, for drawing 2D stuff, I use Krita, but I don't use it as much when I'm mocking things up. When I'm mocking things up, I use a really old program called Paint Shop Pro. It's horrible for my digitizer tablet, but it's adequate. My second runner-up would be Photoshop, because Photoshop, again, has a lot more power. It's more like Paint Shop Pro on steroids. Mine, unfortunately, has a glitch where with my tablet, if I zoom in beyond a 1-to-1 ratio, my tablet stops working and it starts grabbing the picture and dragging it around instead of actually drawing on the screen. So that's why I went over to Krita until I can get an upgraded version of Photoshop, which I have no intention of doing. Photoshop to me is just dead. GIMP is another tool. I don't have it up here, but GIMP is another good 2D art tool to use. Okay, so next is this microphone. I mean, you don't think about it, because when you start doing a show and you start doing things and you get into media, you're going to be recording something at some point in time, even if it's just audio for a sample, for a concept for the show, or just recording your own voice, trying to read out your script and time it out to make sure that it's filling the time needs of what a show should actually be. So I've got two microphones, actually. I have the PM450, which is a condenser microphone, and that one has a great full range response. I mean, it'll clip if you start eating the microphone, but you can get really close to it. You can talk really far away. It picks up everything. And unfortunately, it picks up everything. Someone closes the door across the other side of the house, you can hear it. I use noise filters to help reduce a lot of that. Even my air conditioner gets filtered out somehow by magic by the program that I'm using. I'll get into that afterwards. So this is one microphone. Now I have two microphones. I have a condenser microphone, and I also have a dynamic microphone. A dynamic microphone, it likes to be a little bit more intimate and in your face. It doesn't have as great of a response And I don't know how to describe it. If you start clipping it out, it can clip out a lot earlier than this condenser microphone. And it's more sensitive in certain areas. And the way this one is set up is kind of like a shotgun microphone, and you can't see it through the filter that there's an anti-spray foam filter on there. If you took that off, there's like a tube that kind of sticks forward and the microphone points forward. If you put a foam wrapping around it, you can block out all the surrounding sound and you can get a good directional shotgun mic thing, which is great because if you're doing something where you have a camera in your face and you don't want the microphone in your face as well, you don't want the microphone blocking your screen like I have right now, I have to look over my microphone, then it's great. You can put that up above your monitor and you can point it at your mouth and you don't get this because you're nowhere near it. It's not going to give you those pops and it's not as sensitive. So it can drown out a lot of the surrounding noise. I actually use both. And the reason I have both is because I have one that's a little bit further away and one that's right up on my face. So if for some reason this microphone clips out, I can actually fade to the other one, which is not clipping out, and get back that audio that I would otherwise not have available to me because it was clipped out and I wouldn't have to re-record a whole audio session again. And it also makes a great noise reduction. If you turn the microphone away and face it away from your vocals, you can use it as a negative imprint to reduce noise, which is all the surrounding noise. So if it's picking up less of your voice and more of the surrounding noise, you can subtract that from your audio track. And now any sound that came through with your voice, which was also picked up in the other microphone, is going to get canceled out. So there's some benefits to having two microphones. Now, the one that I got, the PM450, I got a combo kit. So it came with the headphones, and these are great headphones. They have a lot of clarity in them. The microphone is great. Both of them, this one and this one, have a pass-through, and I can hear directly what my filtered voice, because this microphone has a DSP chip built inside of it. So it does its own pre-filtering, and then it goes to the computer through USB, and then there's secondary filtering on that. But I can hear the pre-filtered audio coming through, so I know if I'm talking loud enough, if my voice is trailing off, and I know I have to start speaking louder again. So that's great. There's no delay on it. It's directly from the microphone right to my headphones. Then I can also hear whatever's coming through the speakers of my computer. And they have other various models out there. They're mostly meant for podcasters, is their target audience, which is great. For singing, you really want more of the higher end. You don't want a dynamic. You want a condenser microphone. The better ones usually have phantom power. These ones do not require phantom power, by the way, and they would not be processed through a DSP. Those are going to give you the best range usually, and they have the higher fidelity that you're not going to get from these. I mean, these go, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. So they're adequate and more than adequate. I actually did a review on one of them, kind of. I just made a video that shows all of the features of the microphone. OBS Studio. This is great. This actually has a noise reduction thing in here. This is what's eating up the sound of my AC unit, which you can't hear, thankfully, as I'm talking. So that is a big bonus. It has its own awesome noise filter built into it, which blocks out a lot of sound. And it does great audio output and mixing, gives you lots of control. It can seem overwhelming at first, but there's a great support forum for this. And if you have any questions, even AI can help you figure things out. It has, lots of plugins and features you can use for it. All right, so back on the art side of things, I use XP Pen digitizer tablet. And this is the specific one that I use, the Deco Pro MW. It has a 9x5-inch active area. It's not the one with the built-in screen. The ones with the built-in screen are a little bit better because you can see exactly what you're drawing on, provided you get a good size screen and your eyes are good. And with this type of digitizer, you've got a disassociation, like with your mouse. It took you a while to figure out how to use your mouse across the screen. It's going to take you a while to figure out how to use the tablet and draw on the screen because you're drawing down below, but your tablet or your screen is doing something different up above. And once you get used to it, it's not an issue at all. You can just scribble and write and draw, and there's always undo, Control Z. But yes, I like this. It has a couple of quick feature buttons on here. You can program, and you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in or to scroll or pan or do all that other good stuff. You can use it for video editing as well, which is great because you can just cycle right through things and grab things and do all sorts of other neat things with this tablet. And I believe this has tilt control. I can switch to eraser without having to flip the pen over. Okay, so the other thing I use for my 3D is a space mouse. And this is a neat thing because this little space mouse, you can push it forward, pull it backwards, lift it up, push it down, twist it around, and it goes, it's like 3D rotation, thus the 3D space mouse. And it has a bunch of quick function buttons. Some can be programmed. There's a more advanced version of this, which is kind of cool. And that's this one up here where it has hot function buttons where you can program them and you can set the little icons to display to give you a quick view. So you have different programs. When you go into a different program, the screen changes and it just shows what those new icons are and what these new buttons are going to do for you. I don't have this one. I would have liked to have that one. I don't get as much use out of this as I would like, just because my program DAZ 3D is not really set up for it. I had to do kind of a hack to get it to work, but it works great in Blender and in any of the CAD programs, 3D CAD programs. It doesn't really like SketchUp too much either. You have to kind of make a little hack to make it work in there. So it is very CAD focused in Maya. Okay, and this, I also have a CAD mouse, which just gives me some extra buttons on the side, which I usually disable because when you're trying to pick up the mouse and move it, your thumb ends up clicking these, and it's usually like the back button and next button, which makes things do crazy things you don't actually want it to do when you don't want it to do. They need to replace those buttons. But it does give you 3 buttons of control, plus a third click button for the mouse wheel, and then a pilot control, which gives you some quick feature functions. Let's see, what else do I use? Audacity for audio editing. That is a must-have. Any audio, it's not a DAW, but a DAW would be a good alternative for lining things up and for doing music editing. This is a very lightweight version of what I would consider to be a DAW. It's functional. It's old. I'm old. It works. Let's see, what else is there? Okay, now here's a tough one. DaVinci Resolve. I didn't realize there's 2 different versions of this. There is Blackmagic Studio and then Mojave. So if you go to Mojave, I guess this is like a lightweight version of it. I didn't know that existed out there, but there is a lightweight version of the video editor, which is going to be great for a lot of people. It's just if you're just breaking into it, you don't know how to do a lot of things. This is going to limit your amount of crazy tools and functions and give you the must-haves right off the bat. I use this one, DaVinci Resolve Blackmagic. And again, this is an industry standard. It is not the industry standard, but this is one that is used across the industry for various tasks and media building and construction and editing and doing effects, provided that you pay for it. And it gives you all different these flows and things you can do to create additional effects. If you're using it for just basic editing, it works great too. If you don't mind I think it's limiting to 30 frames per second as an output if you use just the free version. There's no watermark though. And I think there might be a limit of 4K, like it won't do 8K or higher than 4K. Don't quote me on that in the free version. So, but that's what I use. I use this right here. I actually used 19. I've upgraded to 20 yet. And another weird one, which I used when this was going to be a novel. It went from a game to a novel to a movie to a TV series. So when it was a novel, I was using a program called YWriter 7. And it's old. It's back. It's compatible with Windows 7, SP1, and newer. So this is old. It's functional. What this does is it gives you a structure. If I can go to screenshots, it gives you a structure for writing a story. And so you can organize it by chapters. You can get information on here for characters, and it can kind of track things left and right. I would say that this probably might be the closest you're going to get to a free script Bible that you can use, or a world Bible, or a world treatment, script treatment, where you can put in the information on characters, locations, and details, give them images, their looks, and all that other good stuff, how the world functions. This can kind of do all of that. A little confusing. It did not meet my goals because I couldn't get anything out of it, meaning that Once it's in here, it's like it's in here. It says you can do an ebook creation, which would be the equivalent of grabbing your information that you have and structuring it into a world treatment and creating an ebook out of it. That might be the closest you're going to get. I leave this as it's a good and functional piece of software to use. The number one tool I use besides notepads and paper are index cards and index card binders. They are great for jotting down notes and creating episodic, and scenes and things like that. And you can keep it all structured. And the best part about it is tape goes a long way with this. You can cut off the ends where the holes are, and you can start taping and make the cards longer and longer and longer, then just fold them up and tape them up, put little markers in there to keep track of everything, make different ones for different episodes and different ones for different seasons. And it's a better alternative than the crime scene investigator pinup board where you have index cards and strings all over the place. I mean, that kind of works too. If you're into that and you want a digital version of that, I would say get something like Twine. Twine is another good one. I'm going to put this here. Twine. So with Twine, you can create little notes. You can actually make it interactive in a way, but you can create little notes that you can drag and drop, and you can link around and treat them like index cards. And it's like a free floating form. It's hard to describe. You're going to have to try it out. It looks cool the way you use it, and you can create a HTML output to make it an interactive story if you wanted to, but it's another potential tool. So the other thing I have beyond the tools, I wanted to get into covering some of the story. Now that the tools are done, I'm going to go over my world, some of the details. So this is a map back when this was a video game, or intended to be a video game. And this is a huge, huge map. You can't see it on here. The resolution on this is 12,800 pixels by 12,800 pixels. I would have gone bigger, but my old paint program couldn't handle it. This one probably can. It was going to be a lot bigger, and it wouldn't be a lot bigger when I actually got down to it. I mean, this is the resolution of it. This is the main continent where they actually land on. They land somewhere over here. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. They land somewhere over here. And there's a purpose why they land over here. And I've talked about that before. I'll talk about that in a later episode. But that's where they kind of land. So this was the world. These are the different little sections. And if I go to the next one, it shows how much space it would occupy if it were on the 3D globe. And if you imagine that this was a square or a dice that you like blew up into a balloon shape, that's essentially what the format that I'm using for what would have been the game, but also for the 3D rendering. So this would be one side, this would be another side, and then the top would be another continent, the bottom would be another continent. Well, this was the main continent where a good majority of the story actually takes place. And you can see here, this green is supposed to be like forest and where the lush area is. Because this planet is tidally locked to the sun, this side right here is always facing the sun and is super, super, super excruciatingly hot. This sort of here is always away from the sun and is super, super excruciatingly frigidly cold. And it remains that way because it is already tidally locked. So the majority of the planet's weight is actually in here. It's just off center, and that's what contributed towards it. And it's from an event. Something crashed into the tail end over here, pretty much carved out a big, huge chunk, landed inside, and disrupted the core. The core kind of shifted. Over here, it exposed a good chunk of the planet's core, spewed out and created a brand new moon, and left a big, huge open fissure like a volcano. And so the ocean kind of stops here. And then here's where it's just so hot that the water is just evaporating faster than it can flow. And it flows over these salt crystals that make it dry out and evaporate even faster. And you get this cyclic weather system where rain just does not want to go any further. It comes up here, cools down real fast, and then comes back down, drops, and it's an endless cycle of water constantly really flowing this way, depositing all the salt here, And eventually in time, if this planet were to shift or whatever, the water would eventually cover the entire planet. We're not going that far. That was the scientific theory of it. And I actually forgot what it's called, Universe Creator, I think, or something like that, or Universe Studio. I built this system so it was real. Like I built the planet, the sun, the solar system it exists in. And so once I figured out all the calculations and that this was theoretically possible, I says, okay, I don't need this anymore. Wrote down all the notes and left it at that. This is what the continent looks like. If it's spread up, it's missing part of the tail here. But again, here you see where the plant life is, where it kind of grows. And the oddity of this world, which is copyrighted as part of the attributes of the script, is the fact that the oceans here are freshwater and the seas are heavily saltwater, like the Dead Sea, where it's like so salt saturated. It's like the shores are salt. The land is salt underneath at the bottom of the sea. The water just keeps evaporating faster than it can flow out, and it never really exits into the seas. And the justification for the freshwater seas is the fact that there's not that many underground mineral depleting tunnels like on Earth, where water flows under the continent and saps salts and minerals and brings those into the ocean as it's constantly draining. This planet, even though it's older, most of the salts have deposited across this border wall here, where it's the oceans are just evaporating, as well as the frozen side where they're just freezing and dropping the salts on the sea floor, and they don't get a chance to mix back into the water because it's so cold and so dense, and the water just freezes, evaporates, and then as dry moisture. I don't know how to explain that. It's moisture that's so cold that it comes out, it evaporates and instantly turns into ice in like micro flurries, and it flows and then melts, comes back down, melts again, and it's two cyclic loops. So this is where the plant life is. This is where it's habitable for people and for the creatures that live on the planet and for the plant life on the planet. Everything above here is all desert. Everything below here starts to get frigidly cold and icy, and it's constantly snowing. Now, if I broke this down into area continents, now this was for the game, and each one of these had a specific purpose. You get to see the colony expand. So they crash somewhere about here, and I'll show you that in just 1 second. This line has a very distinct purpose, which will be explained in the show when you actually get into there. Can't reveal that here, but there's little clues here, but I'm not going to go into that. In the beginning, they designate this area as the landing, which means the crash landing. Where the ship actually crashes is called the landing, as like a city. And Mira, the mother, the geologist, is kind of I want to say a ruler, but she is the main body of what's going on here, of controlling this area. This is mostly all the scientists are still here. Gage has built, and Lana actually built Crescent City right along this edge over here. And Gage is kind of the ruler there. He lives here in this city. And then Lana lives over here on the concourse. There's a pod over here, which lands, and that becomes a city called Junk City, and she lives there. That's where her home is, and she kind of has an edge over everybody in here. Gage has an edge on everybody over here. And you get this like Game of Thrones, like power struggle going on for various things. And then the further you get out, the less influence these guys have. If we zoom in, so this is the landing, this part right here. I go into the landing and I cut this out, you get this. And here's you can see where the ship crashes. And they build their mainstay. And their first exploration, because they need to get food, because they've purposely crashed the ship, so the ship's provisions are no longer functional. They need food. And they don't want to test the edibility of the creatures because they don't know what's going on with the creatures. And their pre-analysis from the probes that they used on the ship, I guess it identified them as not being an edible source of food. The only creatures that appeared to be through their scans animal-like, like Earth-like, was the creatures in the freshwater oceans. So their first task is to find a way to get all the way over here to the ocean. And they do find their way across the mountains. And they settle a place called Dawn, which is here. The slight axial tilt of the planet, at this point, it never gets darkened. So at this point is always in the light no matter what. So its darkest is like dawn-like. And then all the way down here later on, they settle a place called Dusk, which is kind of the opposite. It's always dark, and then it only ever sees a slight breach of rays, which they call dusk. And so we get dawn and dusk. And between that is the West Shore, which is the other sea place that they frequent. Sanctorium is a place they build later on. There's a pod. I think the pod was like somewhere over here or something like that. So you got a biopod and you've got a mechanical or a manufacturing pod that they dropped. The manufacturing pod would have been over here where Junk City is. And so this contained all of the DNA and seeds, the biological arc of the colonizing ship. And so they built a place over here for the plants to grow, which stayed, it was like a balance of light and dark that was adequate and still warm enough for the plants without getting into the alien plant world over here, which is really hindering their advancement because they have to find a way through it to get over here. And they're not compatible at first. So they build their own little place over here on this raised, it's like a plateau. This was originally going to be a meteor had crashed here in the center and, pretty much blew this out like a crater. And so this is like a raised plateau around here, which is why it stands up. The plants never got up to there, and they find their way up to there. And that's where the pod lands, where it's safe and cold and can work. It's outside of the ionic fields, which kind of run here and messes with everything. So, okay, so that's that. I'm not going to go any further. I've already said more than enough. You get a taste of where I was going and what tools I offered and where this was all headed. I will be offering some more in my next episode and hopefully give you a taste of the writing aspect of this and what I had to go through and what provisions I had to make. Like I said, there's ties to my show that equate to or that link to other shows that existed that came out later, such as Dark, The 100, and Lost, Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk the video game, not Cyberpunk this series. Lord of the Rings, The Walking Dead, Black Mirror, Game of Thrones, and older ties to Dune. So I wanted to go into what provisions that I've actually made to ensure that I'm not stepping on toes. And so I've additionally created some isolation between their concepts and mine that keeps it original. So no one feels like you just copied so-and-so. No, technically they psychologically on some mental aspect of a level copied me because these ideas have been 21 years old. Okay, so with that, enjoy the rest of your evening.
My world of unbound chaos, a force without end. There's not enough blank paper to capture and mend. I have no limits, no lines I won't cross. Hatching up worlds, some lives will get lost. Jack of all trades, master of none. The new show is starting, but hasn't begun. Think it, say it, draw it, paint it, draft it, write it. Every breath consumes air, each blink consumes time. There is no rest in dreams, no thought worth a dime. Today that will change, each new step I take. You'll be by my side, just prove you're not fake. Think it, say it, draw it, paint it, draft it, write it, ink it, spray it, toss away it. Design a line, define, confine a line, entwine, outshine the screen. Late night. We all have a dream, mine all have lives. With each passing day, the good ones will thrive. Help me help them, help you help us. Become the ones, become the tribe.